Pennsylvania just passed its first on-time budget in 8 years last month, one that cuts spending, imposes a new tax on natural gas drilling, and is getting its fair share of criticism for steering $20 million of public money to what some are calling monuments to pork, the Arlen Specter Library and the John Murtha Public Policy Center. Joining us to discuss Pennsylvania's fiscal future is the governor, Ed Rendell. Ed, your governor, excuse me. Very nice to have you with us.
It's fine.
Let's begin with this. You have said, and this is really serious for Pennsylvania, that 20,000 state employees may lose their jobs if the $850 million in federal Medicaid funding you included in the budget does not come through. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid is the man who has to make this happen, and the thinking seems to be that there's no way he can get it done by November. What have you been told?
Well, I spoke to Senator Reid last night, and he said they're still trying to make an effort to get it done. And it's interesting. Pennsylvania has done very well relatively in the economy. We've gained over 80,000 private sector jobs in the last 4 months, I think second only to Texas in the country. And we're seeing real momentum starting to build. June, our revenues exceeded estimate for the first time since December of 2007. And all of a sudden, if we and 29 other states who planned on this money. And the reason we planned on it is because the president was for it, the Senate passed it once, the House passed it 2 times in separate bills. So we planned on the money. If we don't get it, we will have to lay off close to 20,000, not just state workers, teachers, policemen, firemen, because our counties and municipalities will get less money. It'll be disastrous towards the recovery. And I know people say, well, they're government jobs. But what does that mean? They're government jobs that still go on the unemployment rolls. They're government workers who still put right now their salaries into the economy. It would be a disaster not to do this. And I think everyone recognizes it. We're caught in the ideological battle of, are we going to pay for it? How we're going to pay for it? What's the circumstances?
Governor.
And it would be disastrous for 30 states if this doesn't happen.
Governor, nobody's understating the importance of it all. At this point, based on your conversation with Senator Reid, what chances would you give to that $850 million in funding coming through?
Well, I'd say less than 50-50 now, although Senator Brown put a bill in which would do a scaled-down version. And I think Pennsylvania would get about $680 million out of that scaled-down version. But even in the Brown bill, and I commend the senator for taking a step to try to make this happen, but even in the Brown bill, there's differences about how you're going to pay for it, et cetera. And it's interesting to me that the Republicans generally tend to make pay-as-you-go an issue on things that they want to make it an issue, but they don't make it an issue on war spending. They don't make it an issue in continuation of the Bush tax cuts.
Governor,
it's pay-as-you-go only on certain things, but this would be disastrous to not only Pennsylvania's economy, but in those 30 states that are counting on the similar dollars coming
Governor,
through.
with the time left, I want to move on to another issue for the budget, the tax on Marcellus shale drilling. You expect, or you have estimated, that you might be able to raise $200 million from this tax, but nobody, including the drillers and Pennsylvania residents, know exactly what it's going to look like. You've said it's going to be a fair tax. What is a fair tax? How is it structured, and how is it going to deliver that $200 million of revenue?
Well, fortunately, we have a lot of experience. We're the only shale state, Marcellus shale state, that doesn't have an extraction tax, and everyone was convinced what I said, that we ought to have a tax. What it's going to look like, I hope, will be something close to the West Virginia model. The drillers didn't like the West Virginia model very much, and in fact, they predicted that drilling would stop in West Virginia. But after West Virginia enacted the tax, the number of permits taken out for drilling tripled in the ensuing year. So it's got to be a fair tax where the drillers pay their fair share. Look, it's looked upon as a potential gold mine, and I don't want to do anything that stops the economic development, but we need the money from that tax to make sure we've got enough resources to police it well, to make sure that our local and county governments get reimbursed for the damage to their roads and bridges that's going on, and to make sure that we generate revenue sufficient to get that done.